Hey, welcome back to a truck talk video. I'm going to cover two topics today. The first one is going to be discussing, or just not a discussion, but a reminder. A reminder, or to remind you that a narcissistic person, a toxic ex, a toxic parent to your child, is always going to be thinking about themselves and not how this affects anyone else. This kind of rolls into what I was talking about the other day in my video, and I kind of hinted at about the Mother's Day thing. And, you know, I sent an email to the ex basically saying, hey, you know, Sunday's Mother's Day, how do you want to deal with it? No response. Asked the kids, have you heard from your mom? And the answer was, you know, well, it's whatever we want to do. I'm like, what do you mean? It's her, you know, it's her thing, not their thing. And you would hope that a parent would try to make things as easy for their kids, to try to be accommodating and minimize the stress, especially in these times, especially with what's going on right now. The problem is that these type of people, they don't think that way. They're always focused on themselves. They're always focused on, you know, being the chosen one, or however you want to say it. And if things don't, they're not going to deviate from that. And part of the problem with that is that a normal person is not going to do that. You know, even if you're frustrated, you're not going to sit there and jab your kids in the eye. You're going to just try to make the most of it. You know, and then this one made zero sense because we could have, there's so many different discussions that could have happened. And so what ended up happening in this particular situation is like, okay, so we're still doing the social distancing, so you're going to not go inside, you're not, you know, you can't go anywhere. So, you know, how are we going to do this? I live in the desert. It starts to get hot. It was like 98 degrees. So I'm thinking, okay, well, nobody's going to want to do that, you know, high noon outside. And it wasn't like there was a, hey, be over at 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever. So it's like, okay, so, you know, do it at 6. Just hang out, sun goes down, you know, for a couple hours, or not, you know, whatever. And to me, it was like, well, okay, I guess. And right off the bat, that idea was not warmly received. And little passive-aggressive BS was already commencing. You know, like, well, I guess, you know, and stuff like that. You know, in other words, it was kind of like, well, what do you want to do? And I mean, at one point, I even actually reached out to my middle daughter, who's with her mom, like, hey, what's the plan? Oh, well, you guys are deciding that, or my siblings are figuring that out. And I'm like, this makes no sense, you know? Anyways, but the crazy part is when we finally dropped them off, it seemed to go fine. They had a nice time. And then come to find out, talking to my son, you know, the mom is trying to make him feel guilty for not choosing appropriately, right? It's like, you didn't choose the way I wanted you to choose. Actually, it's so funny because this is exactly, I remember this happening. I'm going to deviate for one moment. I remember this story when I first got married, or this experience when I first got married. I was still living in Spain, so we don't, you know, that was the first 3 years of marriage. I walk in on the ex, at the wife at the time, and she's upset, and I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong? And she's crying, and she's like, well, you didn't do what I wanted you to do. I'm like, what did you want me to do? Well, I can't tell you, because if I tell you, then you'll know, and you'll only do it because I tell you, and I wanted you just to figure it out. I'm like, I'm not a freaking mind reader here. How the hell am I supposed to know if you don't tell me? Same time. Now, keep in mind, that was over 20 years ago. What, 28 years ago? I mean, that was that had to be like 1990, maybe 91, 92. You know, we're talking about a long time ago. Now you have a 52-year-old, 52 or 53-year-old woman who's still playing these stupid games. Well, you didn't do what I wanted you to do, so now I want you to feel guilty about it. So the first part is, remember who they are. Don't let yourself get lulled into a false sense of security or thinking that, enough time has gone by. Things must have changed because somebody can't be like this. Well, the reality is, after story, talking to thousands of people over the years of this channel, yeah, it can continue with the same way, on and on and on. Doesn't change. These people effectively are emotionally stunted and don't grow. They don't have that aha moment. They don't mature. It's like they are stuck at 13 or 11 or 7 or whatever the mental, emotional maturity age is, and they can't move on. Good part is, just to throw that out there, the one nice thing is you can grow and heal from this. You can mature from this. You can deal with your past demons. You can confront the issues that have led you to where you are today. They can't. And to be honest, that actually kind of gives me some solace, I guess. FedEx again. Where now, FedEx can at least show up, right? FedEx actually makes it. UPS is a nightmare. Anyways, the thing is that we can grow. You can grow. You can heal from this. You can increase your emotional maturity. You can, expand your life. You can get over this past trauma. Unfortunately, people like that, they are stuck in that. They don't want to confront it. They're not willing to look at themselves and to try to grow and to try to heal from the situation. So that means that as your kids get older, they're going to get the old eye poke from the other parent. This rolls into the next topic, and that is protecting our kids from this experience. And I've had a lot of conversations. Actually, I've had some conversations recently with a viewer who is going through this right now. And I've had this discussion with him where I've just said, man, it's like he's trying to protect his child from all of this. And I'm like, dude, you can't. When one person is playing these games, you can't do it. There's no way. Well, the only way you could bend around is if you let the ex do everything that they want, you agree with everything they want to do, you make excuses whenever your kids decide that they're concerned about it or are frustrated about it. Let me just check my time here. That's about the only way you could do it. And the sad reality is that, and I have talked about this before, but the sad reality is our kids are really the ones who are the catalyst for change. They're the ones who are going to be able to put their foot down, and they absolutely shouldn't. I'm not saying that this is the correct behavior, but the reality of this is, and I'm saying this, and I'll tell you that most therapists don't understand this. Anyone who hasn't been through this doesn't get it. I think I briefly discussed this when I did that collaboration with Chris Godinez about this, and it's the fact that the kids are going to get in the middle of this. There's no way around it. We can try to protect them, and if they're trying to be a surrogate for the ex, we can say, hey, knock that off. That's not your job. If your other parent, your mom or your dad has something to say, they just need to say it to me and email me. You shouldn't have to deal with it. You can say that all day long. It's not gonna change anything. But the reality is, until your kids really start to stand up to the other parent, nothing is going to change. And if your kids are still under the influence, or maybe a better way to put it is scared of the reaction, more than likely, and this is typically with younger kids, more than likely they will just not say anything and they'll just be depressed. They'll internalize that. It has all kinds of residual effects which are not good. But that's typically, and that's what I lived with for the majority of the last 9 years. It isn't until recently that the kids, and really it's my youngest, who's actually started to say, I want this. I don't want it, this doesn't make sense. I want to do it this way. Again, my oldest and my youngest would not be with me right now for this long period of time if the kids didn't say that they felt concern about this COVID-19, this pandemic, and they wanted to stay someplace that had minimal interaction with the outside world, right? I'm working from home, and the minimal interaction is grocery shopping. And as you guys probably recall, when this whole thing first started, I was doing, Debbie was actually bringing stuff over. So it's one of those things where, I mean, obviously we've modified that since, but that was a big driver for that decision. And as a result of that, that's why this happened. I mean, to be perfectly honest, if the ex was ramping things up and the kids were guilty, like in this other situation I was talking about earlier, that's what happened. The other parent was guilt tripping the child, making them feel bad, making them think that this was wrong, making them think that the other parent, the dad in this situation, was keeping the child from their mother, that the child started feeling guilty, and it's like, well, it's been a long time, well, I need to see mom, well, I need to do this. And then kind of going back to the first part about this, the person lied. They said, oh no, I'm going to be off work, I'm not going to be going in, I've got some time so I can just focus on our child, it will be outstanding. Everybody knew it was a lie, everybody except the child. This is where I get into the whole point about you can't really protect them, but the kid was like, hey, it's been a while, I really want to see my mom, yada, yada, right? So now they're in a situation where kids over at their mom's, the discussion was that if anything changed, they would come back to dad. Nope. Went back to work, dropping the kids off at school/daycare, and the child's freaking out because that's not what the plan was. And these are some scary times. I know some people may not believe what's going on or may think it's bull or whatever, but you don't know, right? And it's like, are you really going to spin the dial and play Russian roulette? And kids, they don't know. They haven't, well, none of us have been through this before. It's not like any of us have any experience with a pandemic. But the sad reality is we don't get to protect our kids from these situations. To be perfectly honest, in this situation, and I know it sucks what I was just talking about, not so much mine, but that other person's, it's better when it's more overt, when it's in the face. It's when it's covert and it's really manipulative and you really can't see through the haze and the fog. It's harder for the kids because then they don't know. It's like, well, mommy says this, well, daddy says this, well, they both might be right, they both might, let me try that again. They both might be right, and they both might be wrong. Okay? We can't protect our kids. We can love them, we can try to build our relationship and that level of trust, and sometimes we just have to let those other situations happen. And I will tell you, I will tell you that if you're in the early parts of this and you're waiting for that to happen, and you're like, oh, finally the kids will see the light. It's not a good day when they see the light. It's painful whenever you see the disappointment, you see the hurt, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, and you can't say, hey, your mom's batshit crazy, your dad's a, asshole, but whatever. Can't really say that. All you can do, the most you can try to do realistically to not burn yourself is to try to use it as a teaching moment and say, okay, well, some people are like that. Like what I tell my son oftentimes, I'm like, she doesn't do this to hurt, she's not doing this to hurt you. She's not doing this to punish you. It's all about her. That's all it is. It's now granted, the guilt thing on this about, well, why didn't you come over earlier? It's like, you didn't really care about me, all that kind of crap. I mean, that's guilt. I mean, that's trying to do that. But again, it's all about her, right? It's all about, you need to choose me. Why didn't you choose me? All we can do is the best we can do. We can try to be there, if we have our kids in our lives, to be there for them, to be as solid as we possibly can, to be stable for them. We're not going to be able to do it all the time. We're human, we make mistakes, but just to try to be that, to be able to demonstrate that contrast of, you can live life like this, or you can live it like this. And at the end of the day, it's going to be your children's decision or choice of what they decide to do when they grow up. Like for me in my situation, my middle daughter takes way after her mom, unfortunately, loves chaos. Everything's always got to be stress and anxiety, and you know, how can I find the problem in this scenario, as opposed to how do I find the peace in this scenario, and how do I make the best of whatever the circumstances are. I'm curious if you've been dealing with this, if this is a issue that you have been going through. If it is, does what I just said, does it make sense? Does it send, you know, trigger some aha moments in your own mind? Do you see parallels in your own situation? And does this discussion, is it actually helpful? Do you see anything positive you can take away from this for this particular video? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to this channel and you have not subscribed, click the bell notification, or click the subscribe button, ring the bell so that YouTube tells you whenever a video is posted, because they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff again. And I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.